As-salaam wa-alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Year 3 of the 17 Verses podcast. I'm your host, Maher Haq. In this podcast, we take a small selection from the Quran every day and recite it to you in plain English, so you can get a small slice of God's Word while you go about your day. By averaging 17 verses per day, we're able to break the Quran down into manageable pieces and finish it in 1 year. If you enjoyed the podcast, please help spread the word. Tell your friends and family, subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher, and write us a review. Today's selection is from Surah 44, Adh-Dukhân, or the smoke, verses 30 through 42. These verses tell of the deliverance of the children of Israel by God, and how they were chosen above the nations of the world in spite of their weaknesses. This is a very short series of verses, so I also included a short tafseer about the people of Tubba, who are mentioned in verse 37, as well as an explanation of the day of sorting out in verse 40. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. We did deliver the children of Israel from a humiliating chastisement inflicted by Pharaoh, who was the most arrogant among such inordinate transgressors. And we chose them knowingly above the nations of the world of their time. We showed them signs in which there was a clear trial. As to these, the people of Quraysh, who say, "This is nothing beyond our first death, and we shall not be raised again. Bring back our forefathers if you are true." Are these people better than the people of Tubba and those who were before them? We destroyed them all, only because they had become criminals. It was not for a sport that we created the heavens, the earth, and all that lies between. We have created them except with the truth, but most of them do not understand. Surely the day of sorting out is the time appointed for the resurrection of them all. On that day, no one shall be able to protect his friend, nor shall they receive any help, except those to whom Allah will show His mercy. For it is He who is the Almighty, the All-Merciful. Ameen. Regarding the people of Tubba who are mentioned in verse 37, quote, Tubba is understood to be a title or family name of the Himyar kings in Yemen, of the tribe of Hamdan. The Himyar were an ancient race. At one time they seem to have extended their hegemony over all Arabia and perhaps beyond to the East African coast. Their earliest religion seems to have been Sabianism, or the worship of the heavenly bodies. They seem at different times later on to have professed the Jewish and the Christian religion. Among the embassies sent by the Holy Prophet in the year of Al-Hijrah 9 and 10 was one to the Himyar of Yemen, which led to their coming into Islam. This was, of course, much later than the date of this surah. In prehistoric times, the Himyar and Yemen seem to have played a large part in Arabia and even beyond. But when they were intoxicated with power, they fell into sin, and gradually they ceased to count, and not only in Arabia, but even in Yemen. Also a note from verse 40, which talks about the day of sorting out. Quote, Ignorance, prejudice, passion, spite, and selfishness seem sometimes to flourish in this probationary life. In any case, they are mixed up with knowledge, justice, common sense, love, and regard for others. But the good and the evil will be sorted out and separated at the day of judgment. There is a time appointed for it. In Allah's good time, all will come right. Thank you. This concludes today's episode of the 17 Verses podcast. I hope that this selection helps increase your understanding of the Holy Quran just a little bit. If you like the podcast, you can subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher and write us a review. Or you can grab the RSS feed and put it into your own podcast app. The show notes, including a text version of this episode, can be found by going to 17verses.com. That's the numbers 17, VERSES.com. Thank you, and be well.